When my son David blocked my entrance to his 50th birthday party, telling everyone right there at the door that I was not invited because the atmosphere was for young people, I did not scream. I did not cry, and I did not make a scene. My name is Robert Anderson. I am 74 years old, and if life has taught me anything, it is that the silence of an offended father makes much more noise than any scream. What David forgot in his arrogance is that the land where he was standing had an owner, and that owner wore orthopedic shoes and had just been humiliated by his own son. That Saturday had dawned with a beautiful sun, one of those that seemed to promise joy. I woke up early as I do every day, but with a different emotion in my stomach. It was the big day. My youngest son was turning 50. It seems like yesterday when I held David in my arms, all wrinkled and crying. I raised him and his older brother all by myself after their mother left us very early. I worked double shifts. I drove cargo trucks. I fixed cars in the afternoons. I invested every dollar I could save. Today, thanks to God and a lot of sweat, I have a comfortable life. But I still live in my simple little house in a quiet suburb of Chicago, because luxury was never my style. I spent the whole week choosing my clothes. I bought a nice navy blue blazer, and I got a haircut at Old Tony's barbershop. I wanted to look worthy of the party he talked about so much. David was always showy. He liked to pretend to have more than he really had. For the gift, I did not hold back. I bought him a Swiss watch, one of those heavy ones that cost almost $25,000. I wanted to see his eyes shine. I wanted to feel that hug from my son that us old folks practically beg for. The party was going to be at the Crystal Ballroom, the most expensive and elegant event venue in the entire city. He spent months organizing it, saying it would be the event of the year with 150 guests. In my fatherly innocence, it seemed strange not to have received a formal invitation, but I thought, oh, Dad does not need an invitation. Dad is the guest of honor. How foolish I was. I ordered an Uber at 8 o'clock at night. The driver was a kind young man named Marcus, who chatted with me the whole way. You look very elegant, sir. Going to a wedding? No, son, I replied, puffing out my chest with pride. It is my youngest son's 50th birthday party, the golden anniversary of life. When we arrived at the Crystal Ballroom, the line of luxury cars was enormous. There were neon lights on the facade, music at full volume that made the ground shake, and security guards in black suits at the door, all with radios and lists in their hands. I paid for the ride, adjusted my blazer, and walked toward the entrance with my gift, wrapped in gold paper under my arm. The security guard, a tall and burly man, extended his arm, blocking my path. Good evening, sir. Your name, please. Good evening. I am Robert Anderson. I am the birthday boy's father, I said with a huge smile. He ran his finger down the list, frowned, turned the page, and went back. His smile disappeared. Sir, your name does not appear on the list. What do you mean it does not appear? It must be a mistake. I am David's dad. A dad does not need to be on any list, young man. I am sorry, sir. The instructions are strict. No name on the list means no entry. I felt my face burning. Behind me, a young couple started whispering. The shame began to rise up my neck. Please call my son. Tell him his dad is here. The guard hesitated, but spoke something into his radio. 5 minutes later, which felt like 5 years, David appeared at the door. He looked very handsome in a navy blue suit, holding a glass of whiskey. But the expression on his face was not of joy. It was of annoyance. He walked up to me. He did not hug me. He did not greet me. He simply stood there at the entrance, blocking the view of the hall, as if I were an unwanted visitor, a beggar bothering the clientele. Dad, what are you doing here? His voice came out harsh, loud enough for everyone in line to hear. I came to your party, son. I brought you your gift. I extended the gold package. My hands were trembling a little. He did not even look at the package. He let out a dry laugh, shaking his head. Dad, you did not receive an invitation because you were not invited? The world stopped for a second. The sound of the music became distant, and only his voice echoed in my ears. What do you mean I was not invited, David? I am your dad. Dad, look at this place. He pointed toward the hall, where lights flashed and people danced. This is a party for young people, you know. My partners are inside, my friends from the gym, some beautiful girls. You do not fit in this environment. You are going to sit in a corner, looking tired. You are going to ask them to turn down the music. You are going to kill the vibe. I felt a sharp stab in my chest, but it was not a heart attack. It was disappointment, the kind that splits the soul. I looked around. I saw Linda, my former daughter-in-law, entering with the grandkids. She saw me, lowered her head in embarrassment, and went in quickly. I saw old family friends pretending they were not seeing the scene. Are you ashamed of me, David? I asked in a whisper. He sighed impatiently, looking at his watch. It is not shame, Dad. It is convenience. You are over 70. You smell like Vicks Vapo Rub and mothballs. Go home. Take your pills and go to sleep. I will stop by tomorrow to pick up the gift if I have time. Now please do not make a scene. I have 150 guests waiting for me. He turned around, just like that. The son I carried in my arms, the one I stayed up all night with when he had fevers, the one whose college I paid for with extra jobs and gigs until dawn. He turned his back on me and left me on the sidewalk as if I were a stray dog. My eyes filled with tears, but I refused to let a single one fall there. I was not going to give that satisfaction to him or to those people watching me with pity and mockery. I took a deep breath. The smell of his expensive cologne still floated in the air, mixed with my humiliation. It was in that moment that something changed inside me. The sadness, which had been cold and paralyzing, suddenly heated up. It became an ember. I remembered who I was. I was not just the little old man he saw. I was Robert Anderson, the man who built a real estate empire starting with a vacant lot in the industrial district. David was always disconnected from the family business. He only liked spending the money. He knew I had properties, but he never bothered to find out which ones they were, where they were, or how they were managed. To him, money simply appeared in his account. I looked at the facade of the Crystal Ballroom, that imposing building with marble columns. I smiled, a sad but firm smile. I turned around without saying a final word. The security guard looked at me with pity. Do you want me to call you an Uber, sir? He asked more gently now. No need, son. I'm going to walk to the corner. The night air is nice. I walked slowly, feeling the weight of the $25,000 watch in my pocket. It weighed less than my heart. But with every step I took away from that noisy party, my mind cleared more. I stood on the corner, away from curious eyes, and took out my phone. My hand was no longer trembling. I dialed the number of Richard Miller, my lawyer and property manager for 35 years. He answered on the third ring. Robert, did something happen? It is late. Good evening, Richard. Sorry for calling at this hour on a Saturday. Do not worry. Are you okay? I am fine, Richard. In fact, my mind has never been clearer. I need urgent information about one of my commercial properties. Of course. The event hall on Michigan Avenue. The Crystal Ballroom. Whose name is the lease under again? I heard the sound of papers on the other side. Richard was always organized. He knew everything by memory, but he liked to confirm. Ah, the Crystal Ballroom. It is one of your best locations, Robert. The contract is under Premier Events, LLC. But wait a moment. The contract expired last month. We are operating with automatic monthly renewal because the tenant was asking for a discount to sign long-term. Why? I felt a bitter taste in my mouth, but I swallowed it. Who rented the space for tonight? Let me check with the local manager. Ah, yes. It was rented to a certain David Anderson. I stayed silent for a second. Destiny sometimes writes straight with crooked lines. The owner of the events company that rents my building had subleased it to my son, and my son, believing himself king of the world, had humiliated the owner of the building at the door. Richard, my voice came out firm and metallic, cancel the automatic renewal. What? But Robert, they are good payers. Cancel it. And I want you to call the hall manager right now immediately. But what do I tell him? There is a party right now. Exactly. Tell him that the owner of the property, Mr. Robert Anderson, was at the location and was denied entry. Tell him that due to structural management issues, the property is being requisitioned back. I want that building closed for inspection and assessment tomorrow at 8 in the morning, sharp, without fail. Richard stayed silent for a few moments. He knew me. He knew I was not a man of whims. Understood, Robert? Are you sure? This will cause a contractual penalty for the events company, and they will charge the final client. Your son. I am absolutely sure, Richard. Do it. And one more thing. Notify them that the owner is going to personally do the inspection tomorrow morning. I want the keys in my hand. I hung up the phone. I looked back toward the lights of the crystal ballroom flashing in the distance. I could hear the muffled beat of electronic music. This is for young people, he had said. Well, son, let us see if your young people help you when you discover you kicked out the owner of your party. And friends, before continuing, if you are new here, do not forget to subscribe to the channel, William's Revenge Stories. Give the video a like and leave me a comment telling me where you are watching from. It helps me a lot to grow the channel, and I love reading where you all are from. I took an Uber back home. I went into my quiet bedroom. I took off my blazer. I put the watch back in its box, and I lay down. I did not cry. The time for crying had passed. Now it was time to teach. And they say it is never too late to teach a son, even if he is 50 years old. I fell asleep with the tranquility of someone who knows that the next day was going to be very, very long, and I could not wait for the sun to rise. I woke up before the alarm rang. It was 5:30 in the morning. Unlike the night before, there was no oppression in my chest, nor desire to cry. There was only a cold calm, the kind you feel before a storm that you yourself are going to control. While I prepared my coffee, the strong aroma filling the kitchen and reminding me that life goes on, I saw myself in the hallway mirror. I did not see the 74-year-old man David had described. I saw Robert Anderson, the one who negotiated debts, the one who faced the banks, the one who bought land when no one gave a nickel for it. I put on my best work clothes, black dress pants, a crisp white shirt, and my gray blazer. No festive clothes today. Today was a business day. The phone rang exactly at 7. It was Richard. Robert, I have already notified the management company and the person in charge of the Crystal Ballroom. They are in total panic. The manager says the party ended at 4 in the morning and the cleaning crew has not even finished. He is begging us to reschedule the inspection. I took a sip of coffee, feeling the hot liquid go down. No rescheduling, Richard. The contract says the owner has the right to immediate inspection in case of suspected damage or mismanagement. And I have more than suspicions. I have certainty. See you there in half an hour. Bring the master keys. When the Uber stopped in front of the hall, the scene was deplorable. Daylight shows what the night hides. There were plastic cups thrown on the sidewalk, tire marks on the garden I had planted with so much care, and a sour smell of alcohol that reached the street. The night watchman, an older gentleman I knew by sight, was dozing in the booth. I got out of the car. Richard was already there with his black briefcase, looking as if he had not slept well, worried about what I was going to do. Next to him, a short and chubby man sweating buckets, whom I recognized as the manager of the company, renting my hall, Mr. Mark Davis. When Mark saw me, his eyes popped out. He expected an angry owner, but he did not expect an older gentleman with the posture of a general. Robert, what an honor! What a surprise! He was stuttering, wiping the sweat from his forehead with a handkerchief. We did not know the building was yours. The contract is under RMH Real Estate. I never connected the name with the person. Well, Mark, a lot of people underestimate what they do not see. I responded without extending my hand. Open the gate. I want to see the state of my property. Entering the hall was like entering a battlefield. The porcelain floor, which had cost a fortune, was sticky. There was confetti, remains of cake and dark stains whose origin I preferred not to know. But what hurt me the most was seeing the walls. David, in his eagerness to look young and modern, had pasted giant posters, with his face and neon phrases directly onto the imported wallpaper. I walked through the middle of all that disaster. The silence of the place contrasted with the noise the party must have been. Did the tenant from last night, Mr. David Anderson, sign the liability policy? I asked, running my finger along a scratched table. Yes, Mr. Anderson, Mark responded quickly. He left a personal check as a deposit. But, well, he is your son, right? The lawyer mentioned it. I stopped and looked deep into the manager's eyes. He is my son out there, Mark. In here, he is the client who destroyed my property, and you are the manager who allowed it. I kept walking until I reached the stage area. It was there that I saw something that froze me and made my blood boil at the same time. In a corner near a speaker was a pile of opened gifts, torn boxes, ribbons thrown everywhere. And in the middle of the trash, still inside the gold wrapping I had chosen with so much love, was my watch. He had not even opened it. The package was crushed as if someone had stepped on it. He had not only kicked me out, he had despised my gesture. The $25,000 watch fruit of my hard work thrown on the floor like trash mixed with cigarette butts and dirty napkins. I bent down with the difficulty that arthritis brings to the knees and picked up the package. Richard moved to help, but I raised my hand to stop him. I needed to feel that weight. "Robert," Richard whispered, seeing my expression. "Are you okay?" "I am fine, Richard." My voice came out calm, but it was a terrible calm. "Mark, do you have the damage report?" We are working on that right now. Perfect. Include complete replacement of the wallpaper, polishing and restoration of the porcelain floor, replacement of the front garden that was destroyed by the cars, and a fine for violation of noise ordinances since I have received complaints from neighbors. I invented that in my head, but you are going to accept it because the contract requires compliance with public order. The manager went pale. But Robert, that is going to be more than $40,000. The young man's check is not going to cover even half. Then you charge the difference to him. And there is more. Your company's contract with mine expired and was on automatic renewal, correct? Yes, it is canceled. You have 24 hours to remove any equipment belonging to your company from here. I am going to close the building for remodeling indefinitely. But, sir, the man almost started to cry, we have events scheduled. Weddings. Sweet 16s. That is your problem, Mark. You should have taken better care of who you let in here. Work it out with your clients. The building is mine, and today it returns to me. While the manager ran to make desperate calls, I turned to Richard. Prepare the extrajudicial demand for David. I want it delivered to his house today. Collection for material damages to the property. Robert, you are going to sue your own son. I am not going to sue him, Richard. I am going to collect a debt. He said that place was for young and modern people, right? Young and modern people pay their bills. He wants to be a businessman, a successful one. Well, let him learn to carry the consequences of the damages he causes. It was in that moment, while I wiped the dust from the watchbox with the sleeve of my blazer, that my phone rang. I looked at the screen. Son David. It was 10 in the morning. He must be waking up with a hangover from the party, and probably with a desperate call from the events company demanding the fine. I let it ring. 1, 2, 3 times. The sound of the ringtone bounced around the empty hall, crashing against the dirty walls. I imagined him on the other side with his head hammering, mouth dry, and now his wallet under attack. He must be confused. What do you mean the owner ordered it closed? What fine? I answered on the last ring, but I said nothing. I just stayed silent, listening to his agitated breathing. Hello, Dad. His voice was hoarse, thick. I stayed silent. Dad, did you answer? Look, there's a guy from the party calling me. A guy named Mark. who was saying crazy things, that the owner of the building went crazy, that he ordered everything closed, and that I have to pay a fortune in fines. Do you know the owner there? Didn't you say the hall was... Wait, I let a smile spread that no one saw. Good morning, David, I said with the sweetest and most serene voice in the world. Did you sleep well, son? Dad stopped playing. What is happening? The guy said the owner was there this morning and canceled his contract because of me. He said his name is Robert Anderson. It is a very common name, right, son? Dad, is it you? Is the Crystal Ballroom yours? Yes, David. It is mine. Just like the apartment where you lived in college was mine, and the car we gave you at 18 was mine. The difference is that before I gave you things. Now you are going to pay for them. I heard a stunned silence on the other side. You cannot do this. I have partners. My image. Dad, this is ridiculous. Last night I was drunk. It was a joke. A joke? My voice hardened. You blocked me at the door, David. You said I smelled like Vicks VapoRub. You said that place was not for me. Well, you were right. That place is mine. And since I am not good enough to be there, you are not good enough to use it either. Dad, let us talk. I am coming over right now. Do not come. I am busy. I am counting the damages your young people caused to my property. And David. What? He sounded like a scared child now. The watch? The one you threw in the trash without opening. I have it here in my hand. It is a Patek Philippe. It is worth more than the ridiculous party you threw. But do not worry. I am going to return it to the store. And I am going to use that money to repair the garden your friends destroyed. I hung up the phone before he could respond. I felt a wave of energy run through my body. It was not revenge. It was justice. For years I was the cool dad, the silent provider, the shadow that cleaned up the mess so he could shine. That was over. I looked at Richard, who was watching me with a mixture of fear and admiration. Let us go, Richard. We have a lot of work. I want to review the contracts of my other 2 commercial buildings. I have the feeling that I have been too good to too many people for too long. Are you thinking of touching David's investments too? Richard asked, closing his briefcase. David uses a commercial space downtown for his office, right? In the Horizon building. Yes, that is also your property. He pays a symbolic rent. Symbolic rent? I repeated, savoring the words. I think rents downtown have gone up quite a bit lately. Don't you think, Richard? Prepare the rent review. Full price. Either he pays or he gets evicted. I walked out of the Crystal Ballroom with purpose. The sun outside was strong. Bright. I felt light. The humiliation of the night before had transformed into fuel. I was not a disposable old man. I was the patriarch. And David was about to discover that without the foundation he despised, his castle was nothing more than a house of cards ready to collapse. I got into the Uber feeling as if life was just beginning at 74. And I could not wait to see his face when he got the eviction notice for his office on Monday morning. Monday has always been my favorite day. While most people complain about going back to work, I have always seen the start of the week as the moment to put the house in order. And that particular Monday had a different flavor, the flavor of settling scores. I woke up early. I watered my tomato plants in the patio and I sat down to eat breakfast. Coffee with toast and eggs. The house was silent. That peace you earn after raising your children and sending them into the world. But the silence of my phone was not going to last long. I knew that. At 9 o'clock sharp, Richard arrived. He was carrying a blue folder. This time he sat at the kitchen table, accepted a piece of banana bread, and looked at me over his glasses. Robert, the eviction notice and rent review, have already been delivered to David's office. The courier confirmed receipt at 8:30. I smiled, breaking a piece of bread with my fork. And what was the reaction? The courier says David was in a meeting with his partners. He read the envelope turned red as a tomato and kicked everyone out of the room screaming. Ah, the office. The Horizon building downtown. I bought that building before it was even built 35 years ago when that area was nothing more than vacant lots and promises. David put his company there. an advertising agency that says it is modern and innovative. For 10 years, he occupied the entire penthouse, 2,000 square feet, with a view of the city skyline, paying just the maintenance fees. I always told myself it was fatherly help. Let the boy grow, I thought. But dads also get tired of being steps for children to walk on. What value did we put in the review, Richard? I asked, just for the pleasure of hearing it. Market value updated with retroactive penalty for the last 5 years of non-formalized verbal arrangement, since he violated the clause of family good faith. The rent goes from exempt to $8,500 a month, and he has 48 hours to pay the first month in advance or vacate. $8,500. For someone who spent $50,000 on a party to humiliate his dad, $8,500 should be nothing, right? The phone rang exactly at 9:15. It was him. I took a deep breath, counted to 3, and answered with the shaky voice of someone who does not know how to use the device well. Hello? Dad? David did not say hello. He did not ask how I was. He just started screaming. What kind of madness arrived at my office? A legal notice. $8,500 in rent. Did you go crazy? Good morning to you too, son. How was the rest of your weekend? Do not change the subject. Richard is manipulating you, right? That old man is filling your head to get money out of me. Richard has worked for me for 35 years, David. He only follows orders. My orders. Your orders? He laughed with a mocking, nervous laugh. Dad, you barely know how to use the TV remote. You have no idea about modern business. Richard knows nothing. I have everything under control. Control? I grabbed the balance sheets from the table and threw them at him. The papers scattered on the floor like dead leaves. This is control. Spending $3,000 on meals with clients in a month when the company only billed $4,000. Buying a luxury car on corporate lease while you owe employee payroll taxes. David looked at Richard with hatred. You betrayed me, rat. You showed him the books. Someone had to show them to him, David. Richard stood up, gathering courage. You were going to sink us. Your dad is the owner of the property. He had the right to know the solvency of the tenant. He is not the owner of anything. He is just an old man who got lucky with investments and real estate. The sound of the slap resonated through the whole room. My hand hurt. David's face turned to the side from the force of the blow. The silence that followed was absolute. Even the rain outside seemed to stop making noise. I had never hit David as an adult, but that offense to my work and the memory of everything I built was the limit. Your mom left us with nothing when she died, David. My voice was low, terrible. She was a good woman, but we had nothing. Everything we have, every brick, every dollar, I built working double shifts at the plant, fixing cars on weekends, investing while other people slept. You call that luck? I call it competence. Something you do not have. He put his hand on his face, shocked his eyes, filling with tears of humiliation. You hit me. Yes, and I should have hit you more when you were a child. Maybe then you would have learned to be a man. I took a deep breath, adjusting my blazer. Now let us get down to business. Enough drama. Sit down, David. I'm not going to sit. Sit down, I screamed. A scream that came from the depths of my soul, loaded with authority. He sat hunched in the chair. He looked like a 5-year-old in time out. I turned to Richard. Richard, what is the current total debt of the company? Adding up the bank loans and the hole David dug. About $250,000, Robert. Without counting the fine for the Crystal Ballroom and the new rent. Very well. I walked to the sideboard and grabbed my checkbook. The same checkbook David thought was outdated. I am going to cover the debt. I am going to inject $300,000 into the company today. David raised his head, his eyes shining with hope and greed. Dad, are you going to pay me? I knew that deep down you were not going to let me fall. Sorry for yelling at you. I was just stressed. He was already smiling. The chameleon changing colors, thinking he had won again, thinking Daddy had come to save his little boy. I did not finish David. I cut his smile with an icy look. I am going to inject the money, but it is not a donation. It is a stock purchase. What do you mean, what? His smile withered. I am going to buy your share, David. What? Never. The company is mine. The company belongs to whoever has capital Sun, and you do not have any. You have debts. Now you have two options. I raise two fingers. Option one. The company goes bankrupt. I execute the office eviction tomorrow. The bank seizes your car and personal assets. You leave with nothing, your name ruined, owing everyone. I lowered a finger. Option two. You sign the transfer of 60% of the company shares to my name. I pay the debts. I keep Richard as CEO, and you, well, you stay on as an employee. Fixed salary, no corporate card, no profit withdrawals, and under my direct supervision. David looked at Richard, looking for support. Are you okay with this, Richard? Are you going to let him take my company? Richard adjusted his glasses and looked him in the eye. David, it is the only chance to save the business. And frankly, I prefer having Robert as majority partner than watching everything go to hell in your hands. I accept Robert. David was cornered. He looked at the walls, the floor, looking for a magic escape. But there was no magic. There was only the raw and bald reality he had avoided for 50 years. And if I do not accept, he whispered, then you can get out of my house right now and prepare to speak with the subpoenas at the door of your modern building tomorrow morning. Ah, and Linda called me. She was delighted to know I am going to pay the kids' school directly. The family court judge is also going to be delighted to know you are insolvent. The silence lasted a full minute. The sound of the rain intensified outside. David grabbed the pen that was on the table. His hand was trembling so much he almost knocked over the inkwell. Where do I sign? He asked, defeated. Richard is going to bring the formal contract this afternoon, but I want a commitment letter signed right now, even on this napkin, because the word of a man without honor needs to be in writing immediately. I wrote the terms on the paper. He signed. The signature came out shaky, ugly. Done. I took the paper. Now, David, you can go. Richard stays. We have to plan the restructuring of the company. You start tomorrow at 8 sharp. Do not be late. Employees who arrive late get docked from their pay. He stood up wobbling. He looked like he had shrunk 4 inches. He walked toward the door, opened it, and stopped. The rain was getting in through the crack, wetting the floor. He turned back. For the first time, I saw fear in his eyes. Fear and respect. Dad, what are you going to do with the company? It is an advertising agency. It is for young people. I smiled. That smile of someone who has seen everything in this life. David's son, the demographic, with the most money nowadays, is us old folks. We built the world. We are going to change the focus of the agency. We are going to sell to those who can pay. And you can be sure of one thing. It is going to be a success. Now go and close the door gently. He left. The door closed with a soft click. I returned to the table. Richard was looking at me with pure admiration. Robert, you are incredible. I have never seen anyone negotiate like that. It was not negotiation, Richard. It was education. Sometimes you have to take the toy away from a child, so he learns to value its worth. I poured more coffee for both of us. Now, Richard, show me that campaign you are doing for the retirement planning service. I think I have some ideas about what people my age really want to hear, and I guarantee you it is not what some 25-year-old kid wrote. Outside the rain stopped, and a ray of sun cut through the clouds. The old man, who was not good enough for the party, had just taken control of the whole party. And the music was going to be different now. My music. Friends, if you are enjoying this story, take a moment to like this video and subscribe if you haven't already. And tell me in the comments, have you ever had to teach someone a tough lesson? I would love to hear your stories. It has been 6 months since that rainy Monday when I took the reins of my life in my son's company. They say time flies when you're having fun, but I say time flies when you work with purpose. And my friends, have I been working? Today, walking toward the agency office, which is now called RMS Communications. The R comes before the M&S for Richard Mendoza Society. Well, Richard Miller, Society. The atmosphere is completely different. The deafening electronic music that prevented thinking is over. Those colorful cushions where no one sat, like people, are over. Now we have ergonomic chairs, organized desks, and most importantly, the aroma of freshly brewed coffee, a requirement of mine to keep the team awake and happy. I walked down the central hallway, greeting the employees. Most of the young people who worked there before stayed, but now they see me with a respect that borders on reverence. At first they whispered, "There comes the old man, the one with the money." Today they approach my desk asking for advice. They discovered that the old man knows how to sell anything because the old man knows the human soul since before they were born. I arrived at my office, the former presidency which I had painted cream and filled with plants. The door was open, and inside organizing the folders for the morning meeting was him. David. He has lost a little weight. The suit is no longer Italian designer. It is a well-cut domestic model he bought on sale. The wristwatch is simple, and most notably, he was not on the phone. He was reading paper reports with a highlighter in his hand. "Good morning, Robert," he said, standing up as soon as I entered. His voice was firm, but without that old arrogance. There was a humility there that was earned the hard way. "Good morning, David. Are the numbers for the senior insurance campaign ready?" "Yes, sir. Richard reviewed it last night. We had a return 30% above expected. Your idea of using real testimonials instead of hired actors was genius." I sat in my chair and looked at my son. In these 6 months he had a hard time. I kept my promise to the letter. He became an employee. He had to take the bus the first few weeks, because I sold the sports car to pay overdue bills. He had to bring food from home because his food voucher did not cover the expensive restaurants he frequented. Was it hard? Yes. There were days he came to my office with red eyes, begging me to cut him some slack. There were days he threatened to quit. I just pointed to the door and told him, "The street is right there, but out there is no dad to pay the rent." He stayed, and little by little the playboy died to make way for a man. "Sit down, David." I pointed to the chair in front of me. He sat down. David today marks 6 months since the incident at the Crystal Ballroom. He lowered his head, embarrassed. It is still difficult for him to talk about that night. "I know, Dad. I regret it every day. I know. I see it in your work. You have been arriving on time, treating the team with respect. Richard told me you even helped the intern organize the old archive last week. The David of before would never have dirtied his hands." He smiled, a shy smile. "The David of before was an idiot, Dad. I thought being a leader meant bossing people around. You taught me that being a leader means serving." I opened the drawer and took out an envelope. "That is why I have something for you." He took the envelope, suspicious. "What is this? Another collection summons?" He joked, but with underlying fear. "Open it." He tore the paper. Inside was a key and a document. "Is this the key to the Crystal Ballroom?" he asked, confused. "Yes. The remodeling finished last week. The garden is new. The hall is impeccable. And the document is a new management contract." He read quickly, his eyes wide. "You are returning the management of the event hall to me? I'm giving you a chance, David. 1. The agency is stable. Richard takes good care of the creative part, but the hall needs someone with energy to deal with vendors, with parties. You were always good at organizing parties. The problem was your criteria of who could enter." He gripped the key tightly, his knuckles turning white. "Will I be able to hold events there again?" "Yes, but with one condition." "Whatever it is, Dad. The grand reopening party is going to be mine, and the guest list is going to be mine." "Of course, whatever you want. Is it going to be a charity tea, a church bingo?" I smiled. That smile of someone keeping a secret. Do not underestimate your dad, David. Wait for the invitation. The grand reopening party was the following Saturday. All of Chicago was curious, after all the gossip that the dad took everything from the Sun had spread like wildfire. Everyone wanted to see the end of the Anderson family drama. When the cars started arriving, the doorman, The same one who had blocked me 6 months before, now well trained and well tipped, opened the door with a genuine smile. The decoration had no tacky balloons or strobe lights. It was elegant. Real flowers, fairy lights, ambient music played by a string quartet that would later give way to a jazz band because no one is made of stone. David was at the door receiving the guests. He was wearing his simple suit, but he looked like a prince. He greeted everyone, big and small. I saw Linda arrive with my grandkids. She looked beautiful, radiant. Thanks to David's fixed salary and my direct help, the kids were caught up in school and peace reigned. David approached her, kissed the kids, and gave his ex-wife a respectful hug. There was no longer any of the animosity of fights over money. There was dignity. And then it was my turn to enter. I was not at the door. I was on the stage. I grabbed the microphone. The chatter ceased. 150 people looked at me. Friends my age, town businessmen, the agency employees, and the young crowd David had valued so much. Good evening, everyone. My voice resonated clearly. 6 months ago, I was blocked at this very door. I was told this place was not for me, that my age did not match the joy. There was an uncomfortable silence. David in the back lowered his head. But today, I continued raising my chin. I reopened these doors not to prove I can enter, but to prove that a real party, just like a real life, needs a mix. It needs the energy of the young and the wisdom of the elders. It needs the new and the old. I looked directly at David. Son, come here. He hesitated, but the crowd opened up for him. He went up to the stage, red with embarrassment, but he went up. This is David. I introduced him, putting my hand on his shoulder. He made mistakes, big mistakes, but he had the courage to learn. He had the humility to start from the bottom again. And today he is no longer the dazzled boy who blocked me. He is the man who helped build the new stage of our company. David looked at the audience, then at me. His eyes filled with tears. Thank you, Dad, he whispered away from the microphone. Thank you for not giving up on me. Thank you for being tough. I am your dad, David. Dads teach, sometimes with a kiss, sometimes with a kick in the butt. Now grab this microphone and announce the band. Because I am 74 years old, my knees hurt, but I am going to dance until the sun comes up. The hall exploded in applause. The music started. What a wonderful world filled the air. I pulled David to dance. He clumsily tried to follow my steps. We laughed. We laughed like we hadn't in 20 years. I looked around. I saw Linda talking animatedly with Richard. I saw my grandkids running and stealing sweets. I saw the perfect mix of generations celebrating life. That night, I understood that my revenge was not taking money from my son. My revenge was returning his character. I recovered my property, yes. I multiplied my fortune, yes. But the biggest profit I had is not in the bank. It is in the certainty that when I go, I am not going to leave behind a useless playboy, but a man who learned the value of sweat and respect. I went out to the terrace to get some air. The night was beautiful, starry. I took the Patek Philippe watch out of my pocket, the same one that was now duly repaired and polished. David appeared at my side, bringing me a glass of water. Dad, are you tired? A little bit, son. Age catches up, there's no other way. I extended the box to him. Take this. What is this? He opened it and saw the watch. Dad, this is the watch It is the watch you despised. Now it is yours. I cannot accept this. I do not deserve it. It is not a birthday gift, David. It is a reminder. Every time you see the time, I want you to remember that time is precious and that it is never too late to set the hands of life on time. Use it wisely. He put the watch on his wrist. It fit him perfectly. He hugged me. A strong bear hug where I could feel his heart beating calm. I love you, Robert. You are the most incredible man in the world. I know, son. I know. I patted him on the back. Now get back in there and get to work. The buffet needs refilling and the guests are thirsty. The host of the party does not rest. He laughed and ran to the hall. I stayed there a little while longer, feeling the breeze on my face. They say old age is the end of the road. What nonsense. For me, it was just the beginning of my best stage. I adjusted my blazer, took a deep breath, and returned to the dance floor. After all, the night is young, and I have a lot of life left to live. And if anyone tries to tell me otherwise, well, I have a great lawyer and a short fuse. The day after the reopening party, I woke up with a feeling I hadn't experienced in years. It wasn't satisfaction for a job well done, but something deeper. The tranquility of someone who has put things in their place and has seen what seemed lost forever flourish. I got up early as always, but this time it wasn't out of habit or because I couldn't sleep. I got up because I felt like living the day. I made my coffee, went out to the patio to water the plants, and sat in my favorite chair to watch the sunrise over Chicago. The phone rang at 7 a.m. It was David. "Good morning, Dad. How did you wake up?" His voice sounded different. It was no longer the rushed and demanding tone of before. There were pauses, consideration, genuine respect. "Good morning, son. I woke up well. And you? No hangover after last night?" He laughed a clean laugh. "No, Dad. I drank very little. I was busy working. You were right. The host doesn't rest. But I loved seeing all those people enjoy themselves. The comments were incredible. We already have 3 weddings booked for next month. I am very glad, David. Honest work always bears fruit." There was a pause on the other side. "Dad, can I come over to see you later? There is something I want to tell you." "Of course, son. I'll be here." We hung up and I sat there watching the plants I had cared for over years. Some I had seen grow from seeds to become strong bushes. Others I had rescued when they seemed lost, pruning them, watering them with patience until they bloomed again. Wasn't that exactly what had happened with David? At 10 in the morning, Richard arrived with a new folder. He sat with me on the patio, accepted a cup of coffee, and smiled in a way I hadn't seen in months. "Robert, I have to tell you something. In my 35 years as a lawyer, I have seen many companies, many families, many conflicts. But I have never seen a transformation like the one in these last few months." "What do you mean, Richard?" "David, the company, you yourself. When all this started, I thought we were going to destroy everything. I thought you were acting out of anger, and that in the end we were going to lose both the company and the family relationship." Richard took a sip of coffee and looked toward the plants. "But I was wrong. It wasn't destruction you had in mind. It was reconstruction, like when you tear down an old house to build a new one on the same land, but with better foundations." I nodded slowly. It was a good analogy. The old foundations were rotten, Richard. David had grown up thinking everything was going to be handed to him, that money grew on trees, that respect is bought with luxuries. I had to show him that real life is different. And it worked. The David of now is unrecognizable compared to the one from 6 months ago. He arrives early, treats employees well, worries about real numbers, not just appearances. And most importantly, he understood that being Robert Anderson's son doesn't give him automatic privileges, but responsibilities. I got up and walked toward my tomatoes. They had given an excellent harvest this year. Do you know what is most curious, Richard? For years I thought I was being a good dad, making everything easy for him, paying his bills, solving his problems, avoiding difficulties for him. I thought that way I was showing him my love. I cut a ripe tomato and gave it to Richard, but what I was really giving him was weakness. I was taking away the opportunity to grow, to get strong, to feel the pride that comes from one's own work. True love sometimes means letting them fall so they learn to get up alone. Richard bit into the tomato. It was sweet, perfect, just like these plants, Robert. If you water them too much, the roots rot. If you protect them too much from the sun, they don't grow strong. Exactly. At 3 in the afternoon, David arrived. He came alone without the usual rush, walking slowly through the garden, as if he were seeing it for the first time. He sat in the chair next to mine. "Dad, last night I couldn't sleep much." "Why, son? Is something worrying you?" "No, it isn't worry. It is just that I started thinking about everything that has happened these months, about the person I was before and who I am now." David stayed silent for a moment, looking at the same plants I had been admiring in the morning. Do you remember when I was a kid and I fell off my bike here in the patio? Of course I remembered. You were about 8 years old. You were learning to ride without training. Wheels got overconfident and crashed against the wall. You scraped your whole knee and came crying to me to cure you. Yes, but do you remember what you did? I smiled. Of course I remembered. I put a Band-Aid on the wound and told you now, get on again. The Andersons are not afraid of falls. Exactly. You forced me to get on immediately. Although I was scared, and you didn't let me get down until I could do a full lap of the patio without falling. David turned to see me. In that moment, I hated you. I thought you were very hard on me. All the other dads would have consoled their son, told him, don't play any more today, we'll try tomorrow. But you didn't. And now what do you think? That it was the most important lesson you gave me. That falls are not the end but the beginning of learning. That getting up is what makes us strong. And that you loved me enough not to let me stay on the ground feeling like a victim. He got up and started walking around the patio. These 6 months were like that fall from the bike, but multiplied by 1,000. I scraped everything, Dad. My pride, my ego, my image, everything. But you did the same as when I was a kid. You cured the wound and told me get on again. But this time I didn't force you, David. This time you decided to get on by yourself. Yes, and that is the difference. When I was a kid, I did it because you forced me. Now I did it because I understood it was the right thing. He sat down again, but now he looked bigger, more mature, as if he had grown several inches in those months. Dad, I want to ask for your forgiveness. Why son? Not just for the humiliation of the party, I already asked for that. I want to ask for your forgiveness for all these years, when I didn't value your effort, your sacrifice, your wisdom, for all the years when I saw you as an ATM with legs, instead of seeing you as the incredible man you are. His voice started to break. I want to ask for your forgiveness for not realizing that every dollar you spent came from your work, your intelligence, your sleepless nights, for not realizing that while I was having fun and showing off, you kept working to keep everything running. He wiped his eyes with his sleeve. And I want to ask for your forgiveness for thinking that because you were 50 years old, you didn't need to teach me anything anymore. For believing I was so smart and modern that there was nothing you could teach me. I let him talk. He needed to get all that out. The truth, Dad, is that these have been the best 6 months of my adult life. For the first time in years, I feel proud of my work. For the first time, I can look my children in the eye without feeling like I am setting a bad example. For the first time, Linda respects me again, not for my money, but for my character. And do you know why you feel like that, David? Why? Because for the first time in your adult life, you are living on your own strength. The pride you feel is not for something you were given, but for something you earned. The respect they have for you is not for your last name, but for your actions. I got up and put my hand on his shoulder. That is what I wanted you to feel, son. Not the humiliation, not the punishment. The satisfaction of honest work. The dignity of knowing that what you have, you earned with your effort. Thank you, Dad, for not giving up on me when I had given up on myself. We stayed there for a while, watching the sunset over the city. The sky was turning orange and pink, one of those Chicago sunsets that remind you why you love this land. Dad, there is something else I want to tell you. Tell me. I have been talking with Linda. We are thinking of trying again. But this time the right way, without rushing, without fake luxuries, without economic pressures. Just the two of us trying to build something real. I was very pleased to hear that. And what do you think of that son? That I have fear and excitement at the same time. Fear because I already failed once. Excitement because I feel that now I am the man she deserved from the beginning. Fear is normal, David, but the man sitting here with me is not the same one who married Linda 15 years ago. That was a boy playing at being an adult. You are a man who knows the value of things. He stayed thoughtful. Do you think it can work? Son's second chances are like plants you transplant. If the roots are healthy and you care for them well, they can grow stronger than before. But it depends on you demonstrating to her every day that the change is real, not just words. I'm going to do it, Dad. I'm going to show her that the man she fell in love with so many years ago finally grew up. The sun had already completely set. I turned on the patio light and we stayed there talking until late. We talked about plans for the company, ideas for the hall, the grandkids' life. But more than anything, we talked like what we were, father and son. Not boss and employee, not owner and tenant, not creditor and debtor, just family. When he left near 10 at night, I stayed a while longer on the patio. The night was cool, perfect. The city lights shone in the distance. I thought of Mary, my wife David's mom. How I would have liked her to be here to see what our son had become. I think she would be proud, not just of David, but of how I handled the situation. For years I wondered if I was being too hard or too soft with the boys, if I was giving them too much or too little, if I was preparing them for real life or spoiling them. Now I knew the answer. A father's true love is not avoiding difficulties for children. It is giving them the tools to face them. It is not solving all their problems, but teaching them to solve them themselves. Sometimes those tools come in the form of support and sweet words. Other times they come in the form of firm limits and hard consequences. But always, always, they must come accompanied by unconditional love. I got up, turned off the patio light, and went into the house. Tomorrow would be another work day, but now the work had a different flavor. It was no longer the lonely work of an old man trying to keep an empire afloat for ungrateful children. It was the joint work of a family that had learned to value what it had. Before sleeping, I picked up the phone and dialed the number of my oldest son, David's brother, who lives in New York. Dad, is everything okay? It is very late. Everything is perfect, son. I just wanted to hear your voice and tell you I love you. There was a silence on the other side. I love you too, Dad. Is everything really okay? Better than okay. I am complete. And it was true. For the first time in years, I felt complete. 3 months after that conversation on the patio, I received a call I didn't expect. It was Linda. Robert, do you have time to talk to me? Her voice sounded different, warmer, more familiar, like in the old days when she was part of the family. Of course, daughter. Do you want to come to the house, or do you prefer we meet somewhere? If you don't mind, I would like to go to your house. There is something I want to tell you, and that place has always given me tranquility. An hour later, Linda was sitting in the same chair where David had been that night. But unlike him, she looked nervous, as if she were gathering courage for something important. Robert, I want to talk to you about David. Tell me, daughter. These last few months, I have seen changes in him that I didn't believe possible. When we divorced, I thought it was because he was simply a bad person, someone irresponsible who was never going to mature. She adjusted herself in the chair, looking toward the plants. But now I realize he wasn't a bad person. He was a lost person, a person who had never had to face real consequences for his actions. I nodded without interrupting. The first time David came to pick up the kids after you took everything from him, I thought here he comes to play the victim, to blame his dad for his problems. But it wasn't like that. Linda smiled, a seemingly sweet memory crossing her mind. He arrived by bus, Robert by bus. He brought a thermos with plain water instead of his imported water bottle. And when Sebastian, our oldest son, asked him where his car was, do you know what? He answered. What did he say? He said Dad is learning that the important things in life aren't bought, they are earned. And right now I am earning my place again. He spoke to him as adult to adult, with respect, without lies. Linda wiped away a tear that had escaped. That day I knew something had changed for real, because the David I knew would have invented 1,000 excuses, would have blamed everyone but himself. But this David accepted responsibility. Children sometimes need to be put against the wall to find their true character daughter. Yes, but not just any father has the courage to do what you did. Most would have continued rescuing him, giving him money, solving his problems. You had enough love to let him fall, and the wisdom to be there when he was ready to get up. Linda got up and walked toward the tomato plants, the same ones that had given that good harvest. Robert, David, and I are going to get married again. My heart filled with joy. What good news! Daughter, when? In 3 months. But it is going to be very different from the first time. No unnecessary luxuries, no pretending what we are not. A simple ceremony in my mom's garden with family and true friends. Sounds perfect to me. But there is something else. David wants you to walk him down the aisle. He says the man who raised him wasn't the one who gave him money all these years, but the one who had the courage to take it away when it was necessary. A lump formed in my throat. Of course I would walk him. It will be an honor, Linda. There is one more thing, Robert. David and I want to ask you something, whatever you need. We want you to be the best man at the wedding. Not just walk him, but officially be the best man. Because you didn't just save our marriage, you saved our family. I couldn't stop the tears from coming out. At 74 years old, one would think they can't be surprised anymore. But life always finds ways to prove you wrong. Of course, daughter. It would be the greatest honor of my life. The wedding was exactly as Linda had described. Simple, beautiful, full of true love. David looked handsome in a simple but elegant suit, the same style he had learned to use in these months. Linda radiated happiness, but it was a mature happiness, built on solid foundations. When I walked with David toward the altar improvised under an arbor in his mother-in-law's garden, I felt I wasn't just handing over my son, I was handing over the man he had become. In my speech as best man, I said something I still get emotional remembering. 9 months ago, I thought I had lost my son. That night at the Crystal Ballroom, when he closed the door in my face, I believed I had failed as a father. But now I understand that sometimes you have to lose something to find something better. We lost the spoiled child to find the responsible man. We lost the superficial relationship to find a real connection. Sometimes the greatest love is the one that hurts in the moment, but heals for a lifetime. The year flew by. RMS Communications became one of the most successful agencies in Chicago, specialized precisely in marketing for seniors. It turned out that U.S. old folks have a lot of money to spend, and we know very well what we want to spend it on. We just needed to be spoken to with respect and offered truly useful products. David became a respected businessman, not for appearances, but for results. Linda went back to university to finish the degree she had left when they got married. The grandkids came to visit me every weekend, and for the first time in years the visits weren't forced, they were genuine. The Crystal Ballroom also flourished under the new management. David was right about one thing. He did have talent for organizing events. The problem wasn't his ability, but his attitude. Now, with humility and respect for clients, he had become the most requested organizer in the city. But the real reward came one day when I least expected it. Oh, it was a Tuesday afternoon. I was in the office reviewing some contracts when David entered without knocking something that normally would have annoyed me. But he came with an expression so excited that I immediately knew something special had happened. Dad, I have to tell you something incredible. Let's see, son, tell me. Do you remember the National Family Business Contest, organized by the Chamber of Commerce? Of course I remembered. It was a very prestigious contest where they awarded companies that best combined business success with family values. They nominated us, Dad, us, RMS Communications, and the story of our family transformation. I couldn't believe it. And we won. We won first place nationally. Reporters from all over the country are going to come to know the story of the father who saved his business family by teaching his son discipline. I sat down, shocked. David kept talking excitedly. But Dad, that isn't the most incredible part. The most incredible part is what the judges told me. They said that in all their years evaluating family businesses, they had never seen such a complete transformation. that our story proves it is never too late to straighten the course when there is true love involved. He sat in front of me now calmer. Dad, I want to tell you something I had never told you. You didn't just save me. You saved me as a father. Before my children saw me as the fun dad who had money for everything, but who was never really present. Now they see me as a dad who works hard, who strives, who is teaching them real values. That is the true inheritance, David. Not the dollars in the bank, but the values in the heart. I know, Dad. And I want you to know that everything I am, now everything I have achieved, I owe to you. Not to the money you gave me for years, but to the lesson you gave me when you took it away. We sat there for a moment in silence, processing everything we had lived through. Do you know what I like most about this story, Dad? What? That if one day my children need a hard lesson, I'm going to have the courage to give it to them. Because now I know that true love sometimes hurts in the moment, but heals for a lifetime. That night after David left, I sat on the patio, as I had done so many times in these months. But this time, there was something different. I wasn't reflecting on problems or planning strategies. I was simply enjoying the peace of a restored family. I thought of all the people who had told me I was being too hard on David, the friends who suggested I was too old to go around punishing a 50-year-old man, those who told me that in the end I was only going to drive my son away forever. They had been wrong, but I don't blame them. It is difficult to understand that sometimes true love looks cruel from the outside. It is difficult to understand that doing the right thing doesn't always feel good in the moment. But I had the advantage of years. I had lived enough to know that easy decisions rarely lead to lasting results, that shortcuts almost always end up being longer roads, that the pain of growth is temporary, but the pain of stagnation is permanent. My phone vibrated with a message. It was a photo Linda had sent. In the image were David and the grandkids all dirty with soil, planting a tree in the garden of their new house. The message said, teaching the kids that important things grow slowly, but they grow strong. Thank you, Robert, for teaching us all that lesson. I put the phone away and looked at the stars. That night, they shone especially bright. Today, I'm 75 years old. David turned 51 recently, and for the first time in decades, his birthday party was at my house with family, with homemade food, and with stories that were worth more than any expensive show. I have learned that being a father never ends no matter how old the children are. That wisdom doesn't come from the years you have, but from the lessons you have been willing to learn. That it is never too late to straighten what is crooked, as long as you have the courage to do what needs to be done, even if it hurts. But above all, I have learned that true love is not giving everything they ask for, but giving what they need. And sometimes what they need most is for you to let them fall, so they learn to fly with their own wings. My story could have ended that night at the Crystal Ballroom, being the sad story of a father humiliated by an ungrateful son. But I decided that wasn't going to be my story. I decided to write a different ending, one where humiliation became education, where pain became growth, where separation became a stronger union, and that my friends is the end of my story. But before I say goodbye, make sure to subscribe to the channel, William's Revenge Stories. Hit the notification bell so you don't miss any stories. And if this story touched your heart, tell me in the comments, where are you watching us from today? I love knowing how far these stories travel. Until next time, take care of your family, respect your elders, and remember it is never too late to put things in their place. Life is beautiful when you have the courage to live it with purpose. My dear friends, after telling you my complete story, I feel the need to sit with you like a grandfather, sharing his reflections at the end of the day. Because this story, although it is mine, contains lessons that can serve any father, any son, any person who has ever felt underestimated, or who has had to make difficult decisions out of love. During the months that followed this whole experience, many people approached me to ask how I had the courage to do what I did. How could I punish my own son that way? How did I know it was going to work and not simply drive David away forever? The truth is, I didn't know it was going to work. No one can know when facing a situation like that. But I did know something fundamental, that continuing to do the same thing I had been doing for years wasn't going to change anything. And when something isn't working, especially when it comes to the people you love most, sometimes you have to have the courage to try something different, even if it's scary. The first lesson I want to share with you is this. True love sometimes requires courage to do what is right, not what is easy. For years, it was easier for me to give money to David than to teach him to earn it. It was easier to solve his problems than to teach him to face them. It was easier to be the good dad who always saved the day than to be the wise father who prepares his son for real life. But ease, my friends, is the enemy of growth. When we make things easy for our children, we are not giving them love. We are stealing the opportunity to develop their own strength, their own confidence, their own sense of achievement. Think of it like this. If you go to the gym and someone else lifts the weights, for you, are you going to develop muscles? Of course not. Muscles develop with resistance, with effort, with the struggle against weight. The same happens with character. Character develops when we face difficulties, not when they are avoided for us. The second lesson is about respect and how it is truly earned. For years, I thought David respected me because I was his dad, but I was wrong. David obeyed me out of convenience, not respect. He told me, "Yes, Dad," because he knew that would open the wallet, not because he valued my opinion or my experience. True respect is not inherited with the last name. It doesn't come automatically with age or position. True respect is earned with consistent actions, with integrity, with the demonstration that our words have weight and our decisions have consequences. When I took control of the situation that night, after the Crystal Ballroom, I wasn't asking for respect. I was earning it. I was demonstrating that the words of old Robert Anderson were not just air, but commitments, that when I said something, I meant it. And here comes something important that many parents don't understand. Our adult children are not going to respect us for being older or for being their parents. They are going to respect us for being people of integrity, who maintain their principles, who keep their word, who do not bend to pressure or manipulation. The third lesson has to do with the difference between being needed and being valued. For years I felt important in David's life because he needed me. He needed my money. He needed me to solve his problems. He needed my help to maintain his lifestyle. And I confused that need with love, with respect, with a healthy relationship. But being needed is not the same as being valued. When someone needs you only for what you can give them, you are not important to that person. Your wallet is important. Your ability to solve problems is important. But you as a person, as a human being with feelings and dignity, are not. When I took away from David all the things for which he needed me, at first I thought I had lost my son. But what I had really lost was a fake relationship based on dependence. And that gave me the opportunity to build a real relationship based on mutual respect and genuine love. Today, David seeks me out, not because he needs something from me, but because he values my opinion, enjoys my company, and wants to share his life with me. That is the difference between being a provider and being a father. The fourth lesson is about the power of natural consequences. Many parents, especially when our children are already adults, continue trying to protect them from the consequences of their decisions. He is my son. We think I cannot let him suffer. But by doing that, we are stealing the opportunity to learn. Consequences are the best teachers that exist. They are impartial, they are consistent, and they do not lie. When you touch something hot, you get burned. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter how many people love you. Fire makes no exceptions. For years, I was the exception David expected the world to make for him. When he spent more than he earned, Dad covered the difference. When he made bad business decisions, Dad found a way to fix them. When he didn't fulfill his responsibilities, Dad made sure there were no consequences. But the real world doesn't work like that. In the real world, bad decisions have bad consequences. And if we don't teach that to our children in a safe environment, where we have control over how severe those consequences can be, they are going to learn it in an environment where we have no control. And there the consequences can be devastating. The fifth lesson is about the importance of having faith in our children's potential. When I decided to do what I did with David, many people told me I was being cruel, that I was being too hard, that I was going to destroy the relationship with my son forever. But I had faith in David. I didn't have faith in the person he had become, that spoiled and irresponsible person who had humiliated me that night. But I had faith in the person he could become, if given the opportunity to grow. That faith wasn't blind. It was a faith based on knowledge. I knew David since he was a baby. I knew he had intelligence, that he had capacity, that he had a good heart underneath all that arrogance. What he didn't have was character, but character can be developed if you have the right experiences. Believing in someone's potential sometimes means being willing to see that person go through temporary pain to achieve permanent growth. It is like a surgeon who is willing to make an incision that hurts in the moment to cure a disease that could be fatal if not treated. The sixth lesson is about the difference between helping and enabling. This is a lesson that took me many years to learn, and that many parents never learn. There is a huge difference between helping someone grow and enabling them to stay stuck. Helping is giving someone the tools, the knowledge, or the temporary support they need to solve a problem on their own. Enabling is solving the problem repeatedly, without teaching them anything, without demanding change, without expecting growth. When David was a child and fell off his bike, helping him was curing the wound and teaching him how to balance better. Enabling him would have been carrying the bike for him, so he never fell again. As an adult, when David had financial problems, helping him would have been sitting down with him reviewing his budget, teaching him to manage his money better, and maybe giving him temporary support, while he implemented real changes. Enabling him was what I did for years, giving him money every time he asked, without demanding changes, without teaching lessons, without expecting growth. The problem with enabling is that it feels like love in the moment. It feels good to solve the immediate problem, to see the relief on our son's face, to be the hero who saves the day. But in the long run, enabling is a form of cruelty disguised as kindness. The seventh lesson is about the importance of maintaining our own dignity. That night at the Crystal Ballroom, when David humiliated me in front of all those people, I had to make a decision. I could accept that humiliation and swallow my pride for the good of the family. Or I could defend my dignity and demand the respect I deserved. Many parents, especially older ones, believe that maintaining family peace means accepting any treatment from their adult children. They believe that because we love them unconditionally, we have to tolerate any behavior. But that is not love. That is fear. Fear of confrontation. Fear of losing the relationship. Fear of being seen as the bad parents. The truth is that when we accept disrespectful treatment from our children, we are not teaching them love. We are teaching them that it is okay to disrespect the people who love them. And that is a terrible lesson that can ruin not only our relationship with them, but all their future relationships. Maintaining our dignity is not pride, it is self-respect. And self-respect is something we have to model for our children if we want them to develop it too. The eighth and final lesson is perhaps the most important. It is never too late to change course. When all this started, David was 50 and I was 74. Many people might think that at those ages, patterns are already too established to change, that it is too late to teach new tricks. But those people are wrong. As long as we have life, as long as we have consciousness, as long as we have the capacity to decide, it is never too late to change course. Yes, it is harder to change patterns established over decades. Yes, it requires more effort, more persistence, more faith. But it is possible. David proved it. I proved it. Our family proved it. The key is being willing to do different things. Einstein said that insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. If we want real changes in our family relationships, we have to be willing to try different approaches, even if they take us out of our comfort zone. My dear friends, I hope these reflections serve you in your own lives. Every family is different. Every situation is unique. I'm not saying everyone should do exactly what I did, but I am saying that we all deserve respect, that true love sometimes requires difficult decisions, and that it is never too late to demand the best from the people we love. Remember, you are not in this world to be trampled on, not even by your own children. You have the right to be treated with dignity. You have the right to establish limits. You have the right to demand respect. And if someone has made you feel that asking for respect is asking too much, then it is time to evaluate if that relationship is really serving you. Life is too short to live it without dignity, and it is never too late to claim yours.